Hey guys, so it is our 10-year wedding anniversary. Hey, hot stuff. Say hi to YouTube. We are planning a very adventurous day. Where are we going, babe? It's an anniversary tradition. Actually, all of our dates. I'm getting yelled at. All of our dates. I had to pause that for a minute because I was getting yelled at about a booger by a 3-year-old. All of our dates end up at Lowe's. Probably like 90% of our dates end up there, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So we're just mitigating all of the driving around going, what do you want to do? Because we're terrible planners and we're terrible daters.
We suck
We're really boring,
at all of this.
but we're content. We're actually pretty happy. We don't need fancy things or fancy dates.
Except for maybe a new computer.
Yeah, we do need that, but that's probably not going to happen right now. I want to show you right here. You see this patch? This will be getting cleared out soon by Heath and our neighbor. And that is actually going to be the location of where we store the Happy Camper and our storage building. And then we'll be moving this over because right now we're like right on top of Jerry and Lucia. And we want to kind of create a nice yard in between us and stuff like that. We're actually going to Lowe's to price out and possibly grab plywood. Gross.
And a new chainsaw bar.
I'm going to give this over to Heath to tell the story behind that. But we're also going to grab some plant starts today because I planted a bunch of tomatoes and we have transplanted a bunch of them now into the garden, into actual beds. But we just don't have enough of things that we eat a lot of, like cucumbers and squash and stuff like that. And this year was so weird in terms of actually keeping things alive until we got to the point where we could plant and stuff like that. So we're going to grab some starts. The garden is coming along beautifully. I know we need to get out there and do some serious videos on gardening. I have another tomato tip Tuesday thing I want to do for next week. I was giving my daughter a little lesson on tomatoes, and I thought, this is something that everybody probably doesn't know. So we're going to go over that next week. I have a couple of books that I want to read so I can further my knowledge on gardening and share it with you guys. There's just so much going on.
Alright, so what I'm about to show you is this tree right there. So yesterday this tree fell all by itself. Well, I say all by itself, it had some help. But brother was cutting this tree down, and you can see how it slopes. It angles that way, but so like we've got a creek right here. So the stump actually is angled towards the creek, and then it veered back and was leaning that way, opposite of the creek. So you see all these burn marks on the stump and everything like that. Well, the brother who was cutting this down was tasked with cutting it down. He just doesn't have a lot of chainsaw experience, which isn't a fault on him. It's a learning experience. However, this was a situation. He was using my chainsaw, and first things first, he cut his wedge completely wrong. He had the correct direction, but he cut it, one, in the wrong location, and two, the angle of the wedge was completely off. And the reason I say that was because he cut straight right here, whereas if he'd have cut, even if he cut in this exact same location, if he'd have cut his wedge right here at an angle up, and then his top angle been straight, that would have allowed the tree to actually fall into that wedge, to fall right there rather than right there. So because you can see all of this, it was only being held up by about a 3x3 location, 3 inches by 3 inches. And my bar was actually stuck in the tree, and he was actually cutting, standing right where this is, using the chainsaw. And what saved his life, I think this was an act of the Father, that the tree actually bent over and pinched and wedged. You can actually see indentations of how, I don't know, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, like right here, that's where the chain was pinched in the tree. Obviously the chain got pinched, the bar got pinched, so I went ahead and told him, let's remove the motor from the bar and just put it up, because chances are this thing may fall by itself, and we'll give it some time, just tell everybody to stay away. Well, it did just that, and exactly how I told him this was the Father's thing, because the likelihood of this thing killing him was significantly high if it had fallen while he was cutting the tree, because that thing kicked back hard, and it's sticking out 3.5 feet past the stump in the exact location where he was standing cutting the tree. So, say all that to say, one, my bar is bent up and I gotta buy a new bar and chain for my chainsaw. But two, if you're doing stuff like this and you're not quite knowledgeable, or maybe don't have the greatest experience in reading how a tree will fall, or you know, how to cut your wedge, or you know, where to stand while you're cutting, so on and so forth, get some help. This was a situation where the Father protected this brother's life, and I'm extremely thankful for it. And he, after it had fallen, we came back out here and I showed him the tree, and he was like, yeah, where that kicked out was where, you know, was essentially where his chest was. So, not trying to be too severe, but you know, little stuff like that it's details that can kill you. And this is my bar. It's bent, and he had the chainsaw smoke in and all that good stuff. But hey, you know, it's a learning experience for him, and I hope he learned a lesson as far as, you know, how to maybe get help, or what, you know, a lesson of what not to do. I'm sorry I suck at this, and it's a little run a little long, but it was an important lesson for all of us. With all of that said, I'll turn it back over to Lauren. Bless you guys.